Hi, I'm Dawn Sanders. Tonight, we're at Seton Hall University, in which we are featuring the 26th annual Evening of Roses Gala, in which we are honoring Dr. David Bossman and Deborah Lerner Duane. Tell me, please, what does tonight mean for you?
This is an incredibly important night for the organization, and it's really meaningful for me. I stepped down a year ago as chairman of the fund, and the board chose to honor me this year, and it's just wonderful. I'm thrilled.
And what does it mean for you for tonight, also being that Dr. Bossman is going to be retiring after so long?
Heartbreaking. David has been a part of my life for 15 years. I was a student of his in the Jewish Christian Studies program. I served on the board with him. And for the 5 years when I was chairman, I was dealing with him on a much different level all the time. And it's just going to be very hard to come on campus, not know he's here, drive around West Orange, know he's not there. David, it's going to be a very difficult transition. So we're having a wonderful evening to honor him the way he should be honored.
And we're honoring you as well, which I'm sure personally this is a huge accomplishment. Just your whole journey here. What is that? What is tonight, in addition to the whole pathway leading up to this, and even to have your mentor to be here and to be on the honoree, on the same invite with him? This must be very sentimental for you.
It really is. It's an opportunity to publicly thank people with whom I've worked. It's an opportunity to be with people who really love the work we do as much as I do, as much as David does. And it's a chance to just celebrate. We're celebrating another year of scholarships to teachers, of helping to make the world a better place. As I say, we're trying to change our little corner of the world. And if you can change your corner, if everybody would do that, we can make an awful lot of difference.
Well, thank you so much and congratulations. And we're off to an incredible evening, night that will definitely always be remembered.
And on behalf of the Sister Rose Therian Fund Board of Trustees, it is my pleasure to welcome you here tonight for our 26th annual Evening of Roses celebration. We are grateful for this opportunity to share our commitment to the Jewish Christian Studies program here at Seton Hall, and we hope you will gain a better understanding of its importance to the university's mission and its value for our teacher scholars and the students whose lives are impacted by the lessons they bring back to them. We are delighted to be joined by University President Mary Meehan, Monsignor Anthony Zaccardi, Seton Hall's Vice President of Mission and Ministry, Deans Shoemaker and Bartoli, and members of the Seton Hall faculty and staff. We are also joined tonight by David's fellow Franciscans, and we welcome all of them here. We are so happy to be celebrating with David and Deborah and their families and friends. And our honorees certainly exemplify the mission of Sister Rose to transform our world through education. Dr. David Bossman has served the board as executive director since its inception. He was an original Sister Rose recruit and is the depository not only of our history, but more importantly, he's the keeper of the faith. He provides all of us with the compass we need to continue Rose's pursuit of a world free of religious prejudice. Deborah Lerner Duane's tireless leadership and her commitment to this board brought an increased awareness of our work to the university community and beyond. Deborah is a true upstander in the tradition of Sister Rose and a champion of social justice issues. Our evening certainly promises to be enhanced by the presence of our guest speakers, Archbishop Gonzalez Nieves and Mr. Elisha Wiesel. I know we will be enlightened by the reflections they will share with us. It is now my pleasure to invite President Mary Meehan to offer her words of welcome. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Melinda, and thank you all for being here this evening. I am so pleased to be with you and to celebrate the Sister Rose Thiering Fund, to hear the wisdom and insight of our speakers, and to congratulate our most deserving honorees. The Sister Rose Thiering Fund has a very special place in my heart because it's so vitally important to Seton Hall University. Why? Because it's an example to our students that God wants his people to live in peace, and as a counterweight to the growing animosity in our public discourse. Of course, the Sister Rose Fund could not do its excellent work without strong leaders. We couldn't have asked for better leaders than in David Bossman and Deborah Lerner Duane. I will say a few words first about David. David, I've known for, as you know, he's been with Seton Hall since 1985, and while I wasn't here back then, I certainly knew of him. I joined the board of St. Bonaventure University in 2006, just as he was leaving that board. It's his alma mater, and really a jewel of the Holy Name Province of which he is a member. He also, for years, has served on the New Jersey Council for the Humanities. He's been the editor of the Biblical Theology Bulletin since 1981, and has done so many things to really move us forward. And so, David, tonight I thank you for all of us at Seton Hall for your service. It means so much to us. And Deborah, you are an equally significant figure in the life and history of the Sister Rose Fund. You model the ideals of Sister Rose in your personal life. You and your husband Dan share your respective faith traditions with your children, and together you support interfaith outreach throughout our region. You are an expert communicator in your career and in your personal life as the founder of Lerner Duane Communication, and more recently as a successful playwright. David and Deborah's dedication have brought the Sister Rose Fund to a high point, and we will forever be grateful. It is my distinct pleasure and privilege to join all of us in honoring both of them. I also look forward to learning from our speakers, Alicia Wiesel and Archbishop Roberto Octavio Gonzalez Nieves. I am thankful that Mr. Wiesel is continuing his father's legacy and advancing his important work. At the same time, he speaks with his own voice, a voice that is fresh, a voice that is strong. The voice of someone who has much to teach us about creating a world of peaceful coexistence. His presence here tonight truly honors our event and all of us. Archbishop Gonzalez is a luminary whose family history is deeply rooted in the Seton Hall experience. The Archbishop's father, Jesus Gonzalez Orta, was a Seton Hall alumnus and the very first Puerto Rican to graduate from this university. Born in New Jersey, the Archbishop has ministered to the faithful in Puerto Rico for 2 decades. He is one of the strongest advocates for a part of our country that does not get nearly the attention it so richly deserves. So I thank him for gracing us this evening and offering words that I know will inspire and encourage us. So thank you for including me in tonight's celebration. I've been here for the last 3 of these, and they're very special events. And so, as most of you know, this is hopefully not my last evening with all of you, but certainly last evening as your interim president. So it's been a joy to observe the great work you do, and I thank you from the bottom of my heart on behalf of all of us at Seton Hall for your dedication, your generosity, and your loyalty. God bless you.
And now if I could invite Monsignor Zaccardi for the invocation.
Let us pray. Blessed are you, Lord, God of Israel and King of the universe, through whose word everything comes into being. You have made the world a welcoming and nurturing place for men and women whom you made in your own image and likeness, to exercise dominion and to steward your creation. By your particular election of Israel, you have made yourself known and called humankind to share in your holiness. Grant, O Lord, that this gathering may be a holy assembly as we share food that you have provided, as we rededicate ourselves to the work of repairing the world, and as we honor those who have labored assiduously and accomplished much in this field of endeavor. As we share your blessings this night, may you be blessed, and may your name be hallowed forever and ever. Let God's people say, Amen.
At the 1998 Evening of Roses, Elie Wiesel received an honorary doctorate. As we watch this short video of that event, we are reminded of the friendship between Sister Rose Thiering and Elie Wiesel. As David Bosman told me, their relationship began when Elie Wiesel would arrive at a protest demonstration, and there would be Sister Rose. How many of these experiences did they share together? So please now enjoy the short video of that day. Every time I see this video clip, I get teary-eyed. Why? To see Elie Wiesel, a Holocaust survivor, sing Ani Maamin on the stage of a Catholic university says a lot about Seton Hall University. But what is the meaning of Ani Maamin, the song that Mr. Wiesel sings? Ani Maamin that Mr. Wiesel sings is the 12th of 13 Jewish principles formulated by Moses Maimonides. This principle states, and I quote, "I believe with perfect faith in the coming of the Messiah, and though he tarry, I will wait for his coming," end quote. This song was often sung by those being sent to death in the Nazi extermination camps. For Mr. Wiesel to sing this song demonstrates the level of comfort he must have felt here at Seton Hall University. This university's commitment to interfaith dialogue is truly amazing. God bless Seton Hall University, and bless Seton Hall University and all who have come this evening. Thank you.
Our first speaker this evening truly exemplifies the importance of keeping the story alive for future generations. The only son of Holocaust survivor Elie Wiesel and his wife Marion, Mr. Wiesel has spent his career at Goldman Sachs, where he now serves as Chief Information Officer. He is committed to philanthropic causes where he feels he can be helpful in remembering his father's message and values. He has said of his father, he raised his voice to presidents and prime ministers when he felt issues on the world stage demanded action. But those who knew him in private life had the pleasure of experiencing a gentle and devout man who was always interested in others and whose quiet voice moved them to better themselves. I will hear that voice for the rest of my life, and I hope and pray that I will continue to earn the unconditional love and trust he always showed me. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Wiesel.
What an amazing moment to see my father declare his belief in the coming of the Messiah with everything that he went through. I'm going to return to that concept a little later. These days ask to be marked. These days of in-between. These days between the two Jewish holidays of Pesach, or Passover, and Shavuot, which is coming up this weekend. Will you listen to what these days saw? Pesach, the holiday of spring and freedom, the exodus from Egypt. Shavuot, the offering of the first crops, the acceptance of knowledge. It took the Jewish people 7 weeks from the moment they left Egypt until God appeared to us at Mount Sinai and declared his law. In my father's hometown, it took the Nazis less time than that to eternally rend apart these concepts of freedom, of a divine order, of sanity. It was on the 7th day of Passover that the Germans first arrested the Jewish community leaders in Sighet, Romania. Within a week, there was a ghetto. Within 5 weeks, there were transports. Listen well. As of Sunday, it will have been 75 years since my family was packed into the last of 4 transports to be sent to their slaughter. And tonight, the Jewish calendar, the 2nd day of the month of Sivan, will mark 75 years since my grandmother Sarah and my forever 7-year-old Aunt Zipporah were so cruelly taken from this world, sent to be gassed and turned to ashes. For those who survived those first few days of Auschwitz, the holiday of Shavuot a few days later brought with it by that point an acceptance of a very different knowledge, an anti-Torah, a cursed blueprint of what man was capable of doing to his fellow. Yes, these days ask to be marked, these days of in-between. And my father marked them quietly, his joy during these holidays, always tempered, his mind and his heart often elsewhere. It was just after Shavuot of 1944, on June 6th, that 75 years ago, men who to this day define the meaning of bravery parachuted behind enemy lines and charged the shores of Normandy and began the fight to restore us our freedom. But the lessons that we will write and leave for our children are still very much in question. Do we too not live between these moments of freedom and knowledge? At the liberation of Buchenwald, my father remembers an African-American serviceman openly weeping at the scene of devastation he witnessed. He remembers himself and his fellow survivors wanting to lift the soldier up in their arms in gratitude, but not having the strength. And yet far up the chain of command, the very same Franklin Delano Roosevelt, who so firmly led the civilized world to victory, failed to bomb the railroad tracks which facilitated the machinery of death, and firmly opposed opening up critical immigration quotas which would have allowed more European Jews to immigrate to the United States. Do we not live between choices of good and evil? Do we not live in days of in-between now, in a time when democratic representatives can suggest, without being specifically censured by their party, that support for the Jewish state of Israel is all about the Benjamins? In a time when the Republican Party seemingly tolerates the redefinition of immigrant, that powerful foundational word at the center of our national identity, when the Republican Party wants to redefine that word to mean parasite? We live in between days. And although sometimes it seems like ignorance and evil are winning, occasionally the story of a hero will shine brightly and give us cause for hope. In the midst of the betrayal by their neighbors, who stole with impunity as the ghetto boundaries went up, my father wrote, "It was a simple and devout Christian woman who saved her town's honor." He referred to Maria, the housekeeper who looked after their home, who begged my father's family to flee with her to her cabin in the mountains rather than go to the ghetto. My son and I visited my father's hometown just 2 weeks ago. It was the 75th anniversary of the deportation. As we left the local synagogue with its few Jews coming together, we had the bracing experience of finding freshly drawn swastikas and the message Juden equals Ashen, Jews equals ashes, just outside the synagogue where we prayed. But we also spent hours talking with Alina, the non-Jewish caretaker of my father's home, now turned museum in Siget. She has made Holocaust history her passion. She works for the benefit of survivors' families who return, but also for the uplifting of the Romanian national identity, and most importantly, to show her children what it means to be a human being. We must listen to her tell the story, because the good inclination exists alongside the evil one. On the same trip, my son and I continued on to Auschwitz, and I felt crushed by what had happened in that place, unable to grasp how in the world had I not used my previous opportunities in previous visits with my father to ask him a million questions. When they got off the train, where exactly did my grandmother and aunt walk? Where did he walk? Where did he see what he saw? And without realizing it, I followed Sister Rose Thering's guidance. Listen to her words. She said, "Read one of Elie Wiesel's books. If you've read Night, read it again. You will find things in there that you didn't understand." Right there at the train tracks of Auschwitz, I opened up my copy of Night. And in reading and listening to my father's words as though he were there next to me, I was able to visualize and retrace my family's steps on that terrible night. The good inclination exists, and it is in the small things. This year, my daughter had a falling out with her social group, and for the first time in years, she found herself friendless and without a group to sit with. A girl who didn't know her particularly well saw the awkward moment and had everyone at the table move over to make room. Is there anything holier than that? And it is in the big things, like Sister Rose leading with powerful conviction critical components of the Vatican's Nostra Aetate of 1965, the document which began to undo over 1,000 years of institutionalized anti-Semitism at the heart of the Church. I believe that Jews and Christians honor the same God when we act and engage with compassion and courage. Almost 2,000 years before this document and the Catholic Church recognizing the divinity within their Jewish brethren, the Talmud observed, "A Gentile who engages in the study of Torah is to be compared in his holiness with the Kohen Gadol, the ancient Jewish high priest." I am deeply and profoundly moved by Sister Rose's life work of bringing our two communities closer together through understanding and a commitment to shared values, and by the example tonight's honorees, Deborah Lerner-Duane and David Bossman, set through their own work. And so what if Jews and Christians disagree on this question of whether or not the Messiah has already come or is still to come? I told you I would come back to the Messiah. I want to leave you with a Talmudic story for these in-between times. Rabbi Yehoshua ben Levi finds Elijah the prophet at a cave. And he asks Elijah the prophet, "When will Mashiach, when will the Messiah come?" The prophet Elijah says to him, "Go ask him." Rabbi Yehoshua says, "But where will I find him? Where is he sitting?" And the prophet Elijah says, "At the entrance of the city of Rome." Rabbi Yehoshua says, "And how will I know him at the entrance to the city of Rome?" And the prophet Elijah answers, "Well, you will find there many sick people, many beggars, the poor who suffer from many illnesses. And you will see that they all, maybe once or twice a day, you'll see that they take off all their bandages and then they apply fresh dressing. Only one of them unties one bandage and replaces it before untying the next bandage and replacing it. And it is the Messiah, because he wants to be ready to serve when it's time for the redemption." So Rabbi Yehoshua goes to the gates of Rome, and he finds the poor and the sick, and he finds the Messiah, the one who takes off one bandage at a time. And he says, "Greetings to you, my rabbi and my teacher." And the Messiah says, "Greetings to you, son of Levi." Rabbi Yehoshua says, "When will the Master come? When is the time of redemption?" And the Messiah says, "Today." Sometime later, Rabbi Yehoshua comes back to Elijah the prophet at the cave, and Elijah says, "What did the Messiah say to you?" And Rabbi Yehoshua says, "He lied to me. He said, 'I am coming today,' but he did not come." And Elijah said, "You did not understand fully." He was quoting the famous Psalm of David, "Today, if you will listen to my voice." Thank you very much.
And on behalf of the Sister Rose Steering Fund, I do have a memento for you. I'll bring them over to the table. But it is a pin, which is the same pin that Sister Rose always wore, which represents the importance of interreligious dialogue, and a photo of your dad when he received his honorary degree here. So thank you again. Thank you very much for your beautiful words. And now I invite everyone to enjoy their dinner. Thank you. I
I'm here now to introduce Jason Tram, Assistant Professor and Director of Choral Studies at the university, and also a trustee of the Sister Rose Steering Fund. Thank you, Jason.
Thank you so much, Susan. Music has the ability to unite and inspire. Music and the arts. I was most inspired years ago reading Night by Elie Wiesel, and I'm incredibly inspired to hear him sing. What an incredible, I didn't know he was such a wonderful singer. We have a singer who's going to join us tonight, I'm thrilled to announce, Jason Detweiler, who's an international bass baritone, opera singer, international concert artist. He's going to sing 3 songs for us tonight as part of our evening, our musical presentation. And accompanying will be Thomas Malessa. His first song will be the simple song from Leonard Bernstein's Mass. I'll let him announce the other 2. Thank you.
Is the This next piece was sung by Mario Lanza back in the 50s. But what I love about it is no matter who you are or where you're at in life, sometimes it don't mean a thing if you don't have a song in your soul. So this is Without a Song. This last one from Carousel speaks about kind of the challenges that we all face, the wind, the rain, things that we're struggling with or things that we've gone through, and the importance of pursuing the hope and faith that lets us know we're never alone. So this is You'll Never Walk Alone.
That
beautiful, and we thank you, Jason, for arranging all of that for us. We are delighted to welcome Archbishop Roberto Octavio Gonzalez Nieves, Archbishop of San Juan, here with us tonight. Archbishop Gonzalez is a native of San Juan. He was educated in New York and ordained as a Franciscan in 1977. He served parish in the Bronx, as an auxiliary bishop in Boston, and as coadjutor bishop in Corpus Christi. He was appointed Archbishop of San Juan by Pope John Paul II in 1999. And as Dr. Meehan shared earlier, the Archbishop's father, Jesse Hiram Gonzalez, is a graduate of Seton Hall University, and in fact was the first Puerto Rican graduate of the university. And I believe we should have a photo here, his photo from the 1949 yearbook, so if all goes well. And if not, I have a copy of the photo for you. So please join me in welcoming Archbishop to the stage.
Good evening, buenas noches. I thank you all for being here for a very poignant celebration of this evening of roses. I thank Cardinal Tobin for his gracious invitation to address you. He sent me a letter in Spanish. I thank Father David Bossman, a brother Franciscan of Holy Name Province, for his initiative in this matter. And I salute him on this evening for his very important work in terms of fostering fraternal relations between Jewish and Christians. And it is an honor to be here as a son of Jesus Hiram Gonzalez Horta, known as Jesse, who was the first Puerto Rican to have graduated from Seton Hall in June of 1949. He and my mother, Frances Iris Nieves Alvarez, married on August 13th, 1949, and the announcement in the local Elizabeth newspaper of their wedding indicated that my father had just graduated from Seton Hall University. Father David asked me to send him a picture of my father. Well, after much searching for such a picture, with my youngest sister, Margarita, who's really the one in charge of all of the genealogical questions, issues in our family, the only picture that we could find of my father by himself was his army picture. We didn't find this picture of his graduation from here. All of his other pictures were either with my mother or with his children or other family members. So I sent him a picture of my father and mother, taken, the picture which you just saw, taken in 1999, the year their son became the Archbishop of San Juan, Puerto Rico. As I begin these remarks, I would like to pay tribute to Sister Rose Elizabeth Thering, herself, and her work. She was an educator, and she began her crusade against anti-Semitism after reading textbooks for Catholic classrooms that, she said, almost made me ill. Her 1961 doctoral dissertation on prejudice in Catholic textbooks would be used by the Jesuit Cardinal Agustin Bea at the Second Vatican Council in his drafting of Nostra Aetate. I would refer you to the obituary which appeared in the May 8th, 2006 edition of the New York Times regarding Sister Rose. It's a very moving and very touching obituary. You can Google it. Sister Rose was a teacher, and I am a bishop, and the two roles, for all their differences, overlap. In my experience as a bishop, beginning approximately 2 decades after the close of Vatican II, I was the beneficiary of the work of Sister Rose and others. The entire relationship between Catholics and Jews changed. There remain challenges, of course. Two peoples with such a long and painful history, we had to learn to listen more and speak less, to enter into dialogue, which was and is the antidote to animosities and hatreds and bigotry. Of all the many changes brought on by the Second Vatican Council, the change in the Church's relationship with Jews is both one of the largest and one of the most remarkable of changes. I am blessed to be the son of a woman who had a deep love for the Jewish people. My mother, Frances, was a voracious reader. She was constantly reading books about the Jews, their history, their suffering, and their unique place in history. She instilled within her children these same sentiments. She was also a catechist. Our parish priest would send candidates for First Communion and Confirmation to be catechized by her in our home. Often I would sit in on her classes, which would include her lessons on the Jewish people. In fact, her identification with the Jewish people and their faith was so deep that she requested to be buried in a Jewish casket. Her desire was fulfilled. You will recall the significance of the Jewish casket and the preparation of the body for Jewish burial. I refer you once again to Google, brother or sister Google, Jewish funeral guide. Google it, preparation for Jewish burial, and I'm quoting from that website. After the body has been dressed, it is usually placed in the burial casket coffin. In the past, widespread Jewish custom has been not to use caskets, but to carry the deceased in a stretcher and bury the body in a simple cloth covering. Burial without a casket is typical in Israel, with the exception of military and state funerals. However, the casket is common in many countries and mandatory in many others. Jewish caskets must be made completely of wood, which will naturally decompose and permit the body to return to its sources, thus fulfilling the dust unto dust requirement. Although many rabbinical authorities permit caskets that are reinforced with metal nails, the custom is to use wooden pegs as fasteners. I'm still quoting. It is the custom of many to include in the casket earth from the land of Israel and say he will atone for his land and his people, Deuteronomy 32:43. The deceased is then placed inside the casket face up as one who is sleeping. The limbs of the deceased are straightened and the hands are opened to symbolize that nobody can carry material possessions into the next world. The custom is therefore that no personal items are placed in the coffin. And I continue to quote, man comes into the world empty-handed, and empty-handed he and she leaves it. And I close the quote. Permit me to add one more personal anecdote in my life, which relates to our Jewish sisters and brothers. After the passage of the devastating Hurricane Maria 2 years ago in Puerto Rico, one of the first calls I received was from the lay community leader of the Jewish synagogue in San Juan. His name is Diego Tannenbaum. That synagogue does not have a rabbi, at least not now. He called offering me 2 electricity generators. I was very moved by his gesture. I gave one of the generators to an elderly couple in their 80s, a very fragile couple. She had Alzheimer's and he was very weak, but he took care of his wife. And they were without electricity, as most of the island was, all of the island at that moment. The other generator I sent to our cathedral, where it lit our lights for 3 months and still illuminates our cathedral during our occasional blackouts. I have been blessed to enjoy significant relationships with our Jewish sisters and brothers throughout my lifetime. In short, my experience of Jewish-Catholic relations and dialogue, a dialogue Sister Rose helped make possible, disposed me to hope that the worst forms of bigotry had been consigned to history, that we were moving into an era of mutual respect among peoples, anchored in a commitment to human dignity and fraternal affection. I remember watching Pope John Paul II entering the great synagogue in Rome as the choir sang Alleluia. Think of that. A pope who had grown up a short train ride from Auschwitz, visiting as pope a synagogue in the center of what had been the Roman ghetto, where previous popes had kept the city's Jews confined. There is a new anti-Semitism on the rise. Let us denounce it. I would like these words to be the title of my remarks tonight. Sadly, I have realized the need to modify my hopes. Yes, Pope Benedict and Pope Francis have both gone to the great synagogue in Rome to pray with the chief rabbi and the congregation. Programs like the one here at Seton Hall continue to encourage dialogue, a thickening of relationships. One of Sister Rose's achievements was the passage of legislation requiring education about the Shoah in all schools here in New Jersey. An especially important achievement as the generation that survived the Shoah passed from this life. And tonight we are blessed with the presence of a survivor of the Holocaust. It is heartening to see busloads of children arriving at the Holocaust Memorial and Museum in Washington, D.C., where they receive a powerful education in humanity's capacity for evil. Yet, as we know, anti-Semitism is on the rise. A study by the Anti-Defamation League documented a 57% increase in the number of anti-Semitic incidents in 2017 over the previous year. The FBI tracks not all incidents, but also hate crimes. And in the same period, they documented a 37% increase. And all of us were horrified by the murderous rampage at the Tree of Life Synagogue in Pittsburgh last October. Anti-Semitic attacks are on the rise in Europe as well. In Western culture, anti-Semitism has always been uniquely strong and uniquely insidious. But in our own time, we see it aligned with other forms of bigotry, linked by the ideology of white nationalism. Jews and Latinos and Muslims are all labeled the other and demonized and attacked. The same people who marched through the campus of the University of Virginia carrying torches and chanting, and I quote, "Jews will not replace us," are the same people who would attack a mosque or beat up an immigrant. What is even more disturbing is that for the first time in my lifetime, we have a president who does not stand foursquare against such bigotry, but actually foments it as part of his political strategy. Poor, desperate Central American refugees are called, I quote, animals, unquote. And we are told they are a threat. A threat to whom? We are told after the violence in Charlottesville that there were, quote, good people, unquote, on both sides. But good people do not chant Nazi slogans and run someone down with a car. In 2001, after the terrorist attacks of September 11, President George W. Bush went to a mosque and made clear that he did not equate terrorism with Islam. Can you imagine President Trump doing that? The bishops who gathered in Rome for the Second Vatican Council could scarcely have imagined the re-emergence of racist nationalism. They had lived through the Second World War and the Shoah, and were hopeful that the post-war world, with its instruments of peace and concord, the United Nations and the embryonic European Union, most prominent among them, would help humankind listen attentively to the better angels of our nature. These are the exact first words of the Second Vatican Council's decree Nostra Aetate, and I quote, "In our time, when day by day mankind is being drawn closer together and the ties between different peoples are becoming stronger, the Church examines more closely her relationship to non-Christian religions. In her task of promoting unity and love among men, indeed among nations, she considers above all in this declaration what men have in common and what draws them to fellowship," and I close the quote. In the intervening years, we have seen humankind sometimes drawn closer together. But just as often, we have seen humankind torn apart. Christians and Jews stood together to protest the genocide against Muslims in Bosnia. But the genocide continued for a long time. We have seen the Twin Towers in New York come down, igniting two wars in the Middle East that are still, all these years later, unresolved and perhaps unresolvable. We have seen the ill effects of multinational corporations devastating economies in the developing world, which, along with the drug trade and trafficking in humans, create hundreds of thousands of new refugees and migrants. And instead of a political leadership that seeks to ameliorate these challenges, President Trump stokes the flames of ethnic and racial hatred. People of goodwill from around the world look to the entire political leadership of the United States for aggressive and transformative efforts to end anti-Semitism and other forms of bigotry and hatred. Conclusion. What are we to do? Like Sister Rose, we must return to the text of Nostra Aetate and find the only remedy for the spiritual and political demons we face. And I quote, "Since the spiritual patrimony common to Christians and Jews is thus so great, this sacred synod wants to foster and recommend that mutual understanding and respect, which is the fruit, above all, of biblical and theological studies, as well as of fraternal dialogues." I close the quote. I am grateful to Seton Hall University for having me here tonight, but even more, I am grateful for these fraternal dialogues, which alone can put humankind back on the path of peace and mutual respect for the dignity of all. Sister Rose would be proud of your work, and so am I. Thank you.
Thank you, Archbishop, very much for your inspiring words. Sister Rose Thiering believed, above all, in the power of teachers. And that is truly why we are gathered here tonight, to honor her legacy and the work of David and Deborah and the other board members in their mission to support teachers through scholarships to the Jewish Christian Studies program. We are very proud of our teacher scholars, and I am delighted to introduce one of them to you this evening as I invite Heather Mecca here to share her thoughts. Thank you, Heather.
Good evening. Thank you. First, let me express my gratitude towards the Sister Rose Thiering Fund, the board members, the trustees, the donors that have made it possible for teachers such as myself to gain the knowledge that I have throughout my past 4 classes with Dr. Bosman and take that knowledge back to my 8th grade students. Miss Deborah Lerner-Duane, thank you for your support and inspiration and always motivating us, we scholars, to continue. And Dr. Bosman, I just wanted to say on behalf of the teacher scholars a few words of gratitude. Thank you, and I want everyone to know the impact that you have had on others over the course of your time here, and I'm sure before. You have had a ripple effect. Everything that you have shared with us in class, we have each gone back and not only shared with our students, but our colleagues as well. And I can assure you that the students do care, and they are listening, and they are engaged, and they are interested. And they take the responsibility of carrying this history forward very seriously. I just wanted to share with you a couple of comments. Share with all of you a couple of comments of the other teacher scholars. We created a book of our thoughts for Dr. Bosman. So I just picked a few that I think kind of highlight who Dr. Bosman is. So if you will. Your invaluable knowledge about social justices, world religions, and the plight of those who long for change has been inspiring. I will always fight darkness with light to help tilt the scale by doing great things within my community. Your kind words about me, such as my writing or ideas, have been inspirational and served to build my self-confidence and make me want to improve the world. I will never forget you or your classes. You demonstrate the principles of democracy by ensuring that each of us has a voice in class, and you model a balance of humility and humor with your candid stories and lessons. You have been the heart and soul of each class, and you have inspired us to see things through a humanitarian lens above all. And lastly, I wanted to share a little poem that Father Juan Gabriel Rojas Hernandez ended with, because I think it kind of sums up everything that I'm trying to say. He said, "My heart will always remember the encouragement you gave me. I wouldn't be back in the classroom if it weren't for you. For that, mil y mil gracias. My mind will keep always the perspectives you offered. As I keep chasing my academic path, you will become a guiding light. For that, mil y mil gracias. As you face, maybe for the first time, the vastness of the time God offers, may you find the mystery of existence in all its peace and joy. For that, upon blessings." Thank you. Come on up. Good luck. A couple of weeks ago, Luna Kaufman called and asked me if I could help write her speech about David. I said I needed help writing about Deborah. You see, both Luna and I know Deborah and David so well that it is a difficult task to remark about all they have achieved. When Deborah began her 5 years as board chairwoman, she soon realized that it was necessary to define the mission and vision of the Sister Rose Thiering Fund for Education in Jewish Christian Studies. Working with board members, Deborah developed our mission statement, which states, and I quote, "To advance the legacy of Sister Rose Thiering by fostering understanding and cooperation among Jews and Christians and people of other faith traditions through advocacy and education." You, here tonight, are witness to this mission statement. As you look about the room and observe the diversity of our guests, we can only hope and pray that our vision statement will someday become a reality. For the vision of the Sister Rose Thiering Fund is, and I quote, "To imagine a world without religious prejudice." Because of you, Deborah, our group was able to clearly express what we are all about. Deborah, it is fitting for you to be receiving the Sister Rose Thiering Fund Servant Leadership Award. You have served this organization without, don't look at me, without personal fanfare. I prayed I would get through this, I'm sorry. You have reached out to local community leaders, such as the South Orange Maplewood Interfaith Holocaust Remembrance Committee. It is you who tutors Seton Hall seminarians in your spare time. You who have successfully led this fund in continuing our yearly Dr. Marsha Robbins Wolf Lecture Series and our annual essay contest that is directed to the New Jersey high school students. This year, you instituted the Sister Rose Legacy Day. It was a remarkable event as we invited new friends of the Sister Rose Fund to watch the documentary, Sister Rose's Passion, and then hear an extraordinary depiction of Sister Rose's life given by our own Alan Silberstein. You instituted the idea of having one of our teacher scholars report on the impact of their studies and our Jewish Christian classes to us at our board meetings.
It is at this time that we as board members can rejoice in the fruits of our labor. We can observe how the funds we raise to give scholarships in the Jewish Christian Studies program affects our youth of today. This is truly the best. We can see and learn how young students are affected by our teacher scholars. And you accomplished all this while receiving a master's degree in our Jewish Christian Studies program. I did ask you what one thing you would want to be remembered for. You answered that in one's life, we can all make a difference, something to be proud of. How much you are the embodiment of Sister Rose. How one person can make a positive difference in our world. You always set high standards for yourself. You are a true role model for all of us, for the community, for your family, and for your friends. I am so very proud to be your friend, but more so today. On behalf of this board, I present you, Deborah Lerner Twain, with the Sister Rose Thiering Servant Leadership Award. Congratulations and mazel tov.
Does this stand? Don't? That's my sister. Thank you, Susan. Yeah, this is scary, isn't it? And thank you to the supporters and friends who are here tonight. Thank you to my friends who have come. Thank you to my family who have come from as far away as Los Angeles, Connecticut, Manhattan, and Livingston. I've been asking myself a question, getting ready for this. What does it mean when you find something you didn't even know you were looking for? I grew up on Long Island. Our parents were first-generation Americans. I grew up with my 3 lovely sisters in a small house in a conservative Jewish home that was fairly observant. We were one of 2 Jewish families in our neighborhood. The other family was Reform, which our father didn't really consider Jewish, but they were Jewish royalty. They came from Austria, and they had a very long history in Richmond, Virginia. I wasn't actually looking for that, it just happened. Years go by, and I find my prince, who happens to be the child of first-generation Americans for whom religion is very important, and they're Catholic. This wasn't always such an easy thing. Yes, I was looking for my prince, but I was hoping he would come in Jewish. 2 things that Dan and I did look for. We have 3 remarkable children and raised them as Reform Jews at Temple She'er Tefillah Israel here in South Orange. We specifically looked for a synagogue that was going to be welcoming and embracing to an interfaith family, because there are some challenges to that. And we did find a home. For many years, we also belonged to an Episcopal church here in South Orange, where we would all go to services. We thought, Dan and I believed that it was very important for the children to understand their Christian heritage as well. We wanted them to be familiar with that, and we did find a church that would welcome and accept our family, particularly knowing that the children are Jewish. And now we're going to fast forward. I wasn't looking for something, and by accident, in 2003, I found Seton Hall's Jewish Christian Studies graduate program. Did I know I was looking for something that would make such a difference in my life? I didn't. And it was amazing. In 2008, I was invited to join the board, and I have Rabbi Alan Brill to thank for that. As we had conversations, and Rabbi Brill said,
you might be interested in joining the board. And I thought, I'm finishing my degree. I have a business to run. But you prevailed, and I did join the board. What I didn't know was how much I needed to find this organization. There's a reading in the afternoon Yom Kippur service that our synagogue has put together. It's at the start of the memorial portion of the day. It always means something to me, and I'm going to read it if you don't mind. If some messenger were to come to us with the offer that death should be overthrown, but with the one inseparable condition that birth should also cease, if the existing generation were given the chance to live forever, but on the clear understanding that never again would there be a child, never again new persons with new hopes, new ideas, new achievements, could our answer be in doubt? For me, that paragraph describes the purpose of the Sister Rose Thiering Fund. There's a very human need for hope, for new ideas and achievement, and the belief that the next generations won't repeat or will undo all the mistakes that we've made. You know this part. This is why we're all here tonight. The Sister Rose Thiering Fund raises money that provides full tuition scholarships for teachers who enroll in Jewish Christian graduate courses here at Seton Hall. Each scholarship pays for one course each semester. On average, in a given year, each Sister Rose Thiering Fund teacher scholar will teach and influence 42 students. During this most recent academic year, the fund provided 8 teachers with scholarships. If our averages hold, those 8 teacher scholars taught 336 students in their collective classrooms between September and June. I'd like to ask our 2018 and 19 teacher scholars to please stand for a minute, if you're here. Now, take a look. This is a fairly young group. Each of these teachers, yes, Janet, even you, yes. Each of these teachers will probably teach another 25 or 30 years. Let's just say 30 years, because I like that. I know you're going to be 90, but it'll be okay. But let's do some math. That's 1,260 students each teacher will impact, explaining lessons of acceptance and understanding. We funded 8 teachers this year. Over a 30-year time span, that's 10,080 students for this year's group alone. 10,080 children and teenagers will have had their lives touched by just these 8 teachers. 10,080 students will, for the most part, retain what they learned about listening to each other, understanding, and accepting other people's beliefs and values. These 10,080 will bring what they learned to their sports teams, to their scout troops, to their dormitory councils, to their eventual jobs, to their own families, maybe to public office, or, if they're lucky, to their own students. But that's just the 8 from this academic year. I would like now for any Sister Rose Thiering Fund scholarship recipients from any year to please stand right now. Okay, I didn't do enough. You do the math, and you tell me of these teacher scholars, how long they'll be teaching, how many children they're going to impact, and what kind of a difference we can make. Next year is going to be a little bit different. David's going to be retiring, or he will be retired in another few weeks. David, where are you? Ah, there you are. I'm going to miss you. I'm going to miss your guidance, your humor, and I'm going to miss the knowledge. I'm going to miss, you've been a part of my life for 15 years. I'm going to miss our lunches. Thank you for all you've given to the fund and to Seton Hall, and again, selfishly, to me. To my fellow trustees, thank you for this award. It means more than you know. And thank you for giving me an opportunity to participate in our mission, and most of all, for helping me find something I didn't even know I was looking for. Thank you all.
Thank you, Deborah. As some of you may have noticed, in the back of the room, there are some treasures that belong to Sister Rose. But Sister Rose had a right-hand person, and we all know who that is, David Bossman. But right now, we are prepared to show you some interesting footage of David's life.
David Bossman has been the executive director of the Sister Rose Thiering Fund for Education in Jewish Christian Studies for more than a quarter century. On this day, June 4th, 2019, we celebrate his work with Sister Rose coincident with his retirement from Seton Hall University. David was born and raised in Buffalo, New York. After attending the Catholic University of America, he taught at Siena College while obtaining his PhD in Biblical Languages and Literature at St. Louis University. From 1972 to 73, David was a student assistant at the Ecumenical Institute for Advanced Theological Studies at Tantur in Jerusalem, Israel. In 1981, he became editor-in-chief of the Biblical Theology Bulletin, successfully turning it into an international journal of Bible and culture. Then in 1985, David headed to Seton Hall University, and the rest is history.
David Bossman was because he came to the university as a provost, and then he became the director of the Sister Rose's Fund. He was he is a very devoted friend of hers, and he was always at her side.
You know, he always had the right insight on the, from an academic, spiritual point of view, and would always elevate what we were discussing.
I treasure David as a friend, but I also recognize his great ability as a scholar and as an educator.
I only think of the evenings we had at David's house when he invited all his students to dinner, and to see the adoration of the students. They all loved him so much. It was the biggest mixture of international students that anybody has at the university, I think. But they were all unanimous in the love for David.
Of course, since he's retiring, he's going to have to be replaced, but he's been the best, and he's done a wonderful job leading us, connecting us to the university, giving us insights.
She was very feisty, and he was very good at calming everybody down, and I don't think he would ever get mad at her. He would just go, okay, Rose, okay, everything's going to be fine, and we'll just continue.
He was smooth. Rose could have some tough edges, but he was the smooth part of that team that could make everything work.
Instead of being two people knocking heads, they were complementary in how they got the mission done.
Dave knows so much about these subjects that he's going to be sorely missed, because he was the face of the program after Rose's passing.
I think he was drawn to Sister Rose because he also, like Sister Rose, believes in equality of man and believes in working together with all kinds of communities.
Dave has been able to demonstrate that it's a welcoming, nurturing community for the Jewish faith on a Catholic campus.
I think David was very instrumental in helping me to get Tantur, the administration at that time, to have Jewish scholars come over to Tantur. I remember Moshe Goshenstein came over. He was a very good friend. I had become quite well acquainted with him because of my work on the Dead Sea Scrolls, and Shemayahu Talmon and Michael Stone and others who came over, and they had never been there before. They had never been to the Arab side before, and we showed them a good hospitality, and there was some good conversation. It didn't go very far, but it was a start, and that's the important thing. And David was instrumental in that.
Perhaps he wanted to see how the program could do while he's still alive, after he's gone. And that would be a legitimate concern, that he could give counsel where necessary to someone coming in.
I can't really think he's done everything for Seton Hall that he could do, and I can't imagine what he feels like he really needed to do, except bring the Pope to be honored, perhaps, to be honored and given an honorary doctorate.
He's given his life to those two ministries, those two projects, and sometimes I don't see how he's done it. He's done a terrific job, a fantastic job at both of these ministries of his. The Rose Theory Fund and all that it means, its activities, and the Biblical Theology Bulletin. I admire him.
Not only has he taught all these years, but he has also run our fund. And I think it's very, very difficult and very, very time-consuming to be able to do both those things.
Now, what are you going to do? What are we going to do without David?
I promised David I would haunt him forever, and he knows that.
He's so knowledgeable. Yes, he's a Catholic, but he's taught me so much about Judaism that I didn't know.
He was able to keep our group together and to focus us, to keep us going in the direction that she always wanted us to follow. We kept working with teachers, training them in how to be tolerant towards different religions, working with the children. Everything that she has really wanted, he has done. Good luck to the next person.
Okay, so that begs the question, what the heck do we do now?
Well, that is a question. And it has, the problem is, what we really need to come to the answer is people who understand what a great gift to this university and to the church Sister Rose's contribution is. And there is a real reason for continuing to do that and make sure that it doesn't get lost.
And it's video, so you can wave.
The end of that video says, "Thank you, David." But truly, we have to thank Robin Sanders in the back, our videographer, who put together this piece. And many, many kudos to you, Robin. Thank you. And just as an aside to all of this is a personal story. So when I first became involved with the Sister Rose Thiering Fund, which was probably in 1992-93, I knew that David wrote this biblical theological bulletin, and I did want to support him. So I took out a subscription to it, and the first journal came. I read the first paragraph. I didn't understand one word of it. So I said to myself, it must be because I'm Jewish. So I gave it to a dear friend of mine, Gerald D'Agostino, a devout Roman Catholic, who also didn't understand it. And here it is many years later, and David now has, through the internet, worldwide subscribers to the journal. How smart he is, as we all know that. Right now, I would like to bring up Monsignor Zaccardi and Luna Kaufman. Please, thank you. Monsignor, you've met before, and if you haven't met Luna Kaufman, Chairman Emeritus of the Sister Rose Thiering Fund, dear friend and Holocaust survivor, author, and friend to everybody. Thank you, Monsignor.
It's hard to estimate the effect of Nostra Aetate on the church, but I'll tell you just one small story about it. I'm from Italy. I was born there. My family came to the States, and I went to a parish school, which was right here in East Orange, close by in East Orange. And in those days, I guess at one time there were a number of synagogues in East Orange, but in 1970, whatever the year that was, the religion teachers there, the sisters, decided to take our class to the local synagogue, which was on Prospect Street. And so they marched us about 1.5 miles to get us to the synagogue, where we had a very nice encounter with the rabbi who showed us the Torah scrolls. And that began, a love relationship with the Jewish religion, such that, I had to go on and learn Hebrew at some point. And some of the faculty members are here that know that we have a faculty talent show, Well, there's some talent, And so what do I do year in and year out? I get up and I sing a Hebrew song or a Jewish folk song. In any case, I teach biblical studies, and of course the heart and soul of that is the Tanakh. And so I'm always pleased to be able to teach Hebrew to my students, and you just pass it on. And we need to pass on this kind of thing that was started, because I was riding here tonight in my car, and there was an interesting news item. It was on 1010 Winds, and it said that today the statistics were put out, and in New York City there's been a huge reduction in crime, except for hate crimes. There's been a 60% uptick in those, and most of those are anti-Semitic hate crimes. So the work that needs to be done is tremendous, and people of goodwill should do it. And thank God that He has found us and brought us here to do it, and has gathered us for this task. Anyway, it's just my role here wasn't to do that. My role here is to just say a little bit about David Bossman, Dr. or Father David Bossman, and we want to present to him the Lifetime Achievement Award. You've heard some of these things. There's a biography of David in the book, of course, and allow me to abbreviate it just a little bit, even further. That's a summary. He is now currently the professor in the Jewish Christian Studies in the Department of Religion, and he, as you heard from the video presentation, he at first taught at Siena College, and then became the Dean of Graduate and Continuing Studies at St. Bonaventure. He came to Seton Hall as provost in 1985, you heard that too, and thereafter he was appointed to the Graduate Department of Jewish Christian Studies. And he is the founding executive director of the Sister Rose Thiering Fund. He's also the editor-in-chief of the Biblical Theology Bulletin, which he has seen through enormous changes. It went through an enormous development and evolution under him. He's an ordained member of the Holy Name Province of the Order of Friars Minor. His publications utilize cross-cultural studies in world religions, the Abrahamic faiths, and biblical studies, focusing on values and their applications in present-day context. As the editor of the Biblical Theology Bulletin, he's managed the publication of a wide variety of manuscripts that address current methods in biblical studies, notably social science methodologies that enable contemporary readers to bridge the gap from the modern world to the pre-industrial societies and their values represented in the biblical texts. As Executive Director of the Sister Rose Thering Fund, he has worked with the Board of Trustees to promote the education as well as community awareness of issues in Jewish Christian studies and relations among people in the Abrahamic faith family of religions. His graduate study courses at Seton Hall include Values in Pluralistic Society, Jewish Christian Foundations for Social Service, Cross-Cultural Analysis in Jewish Christian Studies, and Lessons from the Holocaust. David is retiring from the faculty and from the executive directorship of the fund. And as you know, there's quite a bit of nervousness over this. And the best that we can do for ourselves is to assure, and for him, is to assure him that this work will continue. He has labored hard and long. You must consider that I was a student here when he first came to the university as provost. Even though he has a few years on me, I think everybody can see that he does not look older than I do. I probably look older than he does, and this is because he truly has enjoyed his work here. He's been passionate about increasing cross-religious and cross-cultural understanding, especially in teachers who can pass on that knowledge to their students. In the last several years, David and I have come to know each other as colleagues, but also as friends. He's not just a bright mind, but also a warm heart, not just a lecturer, but a great conversationalist. I shall miss him and our occasional lunches as much as his able leadership of the fund. He's been extraordinary. He's done incredible work, and he deserves the Lifetime Achievement Award. And now I turn over the podium to Luna Kaufman, his longtime friend.
How do you part company with a dearest friend, with somebody who has been a guiding light of this enterprise, as I may say it? David has led us through very difficult time when we lost Sister Rose, and then went with us on a trip to Israel that was instigated by Paul Gibbons. And he led us to the top of a mountain to conduct a sermon. It was the same spot that Jesus did the Sermon on the Mount, and his was equally eloquent and equally meaningful to all of us who participated in it. We always listened to David with bated breath. He always had something very wise and very warm to say. And I am so happy to announce that we are establishing now a permanent scholarship in the name of David Bosman. Anyone who would like to participate, please contact Claire at the office, and whatever you want to offer to contribute to it or be a part of it, please let us know. It is a great, great privilege to have known David and to know him now. Even so, it will be at a distance, but I hope he won't abandon us. Thank you.
One of the things that I admired in the portrayal of Sister Rose in Sister Rose's Passion was three parts of her personality. One was her commitment to her personal family. She was very much a member of her family. She remained a member of her family. She valued her family. She was one of 11, and all of them meant a lot to her. So when she went back to talk about her family, she talked about her father, her mother, the issue of Jews coming to her community, which leads us to her second part, and that is her commitment to her career. Jews meant a lot to her, not just Jews who were something in image only, but to people, to Jews as real people. They were real people to her. And so she engaged a vast network of Jewish people in her life, and that was her career. The third part of it was through her religious community. She was going back to Racine. She said it was like going home. So she was very much of a Catholic. She was very much of a religious sister. So those three things, I think, were very vital in her life that made her a whole person. Her family, her relationships, and her community. And I think that that's what we witness here tonight, carrying on Sister Rose's legacy. We have a strong Jewish presence. We have a strong family presence. And we have a strong religious community presence. And I think that those are very valuable aspects of anybody's life. And I want to thank you all for being that for me. For Deborah, a very, very special friend, very, very special person who really made things move. She was a hands-on chairman who made sure everything went out looking just right. Such a special person as Luna, I mean, what can you say? She's an amazing person who is a high-achieving person who has been through hell and speaks only of love, only of forgiveness, only of coming together, only of problem solving. She is resilience. She, to me, is resilience. And I think that that's a model for us all, and an inspiration for us all. So far as the teachers in our program, I mean, how much can you love? I mean, these are wonderful, wonderful people who carry the message with a full heart and a full commitment. And I don't want to single out any individual because they're all great and wonderful. And I've had the inspiring experience of listening to and participating and working with these teachers for many years here at Seton Hall. And if there's a ripple effect, it's in my heart, and I thank you all.
So I think the best way to follow that is with prayer and with song. So I invite Cantor Perry Fine from Temple Beth Shalom in Livingston.
Sometimes words are inadequate, and I hope you, David and Deborah, feel the love that we feel here for you. Our great, great appreciation for all that you have done for the Jewish Christian community, bringing these two communities together here at Seton Hall University. There's a word in Hebrew. If you want to learn one word, this is a good one. And the word is mitzvah. Mitzvah. And it's hard to translate, but it means deeds, good deeds. And Deborah, you and David, your life has been filled and continues to be filled with mitzvahs. So I'm going to ask if the two of you, Deborah and David, if you could stand, please stand. And I want to offer this prayer. This prayer is an ancient prayer coming from the Torah, from the book of Numbers. It starts with 3 words, goes to 5 words, and then 7 words. And it expresses our love and hope for the both of you. Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha. May the Lord bless you and watch over you. Yahweh Adonai panav elecha v'chuneka. May the Lord cause his light to shine down upon you and be gracious unto you. Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasein lecha shalom. May the Lord lift his countenance upon you, giving you a long life, a life of good health, a life of mitzvah, of good deed, and most of all, a life of blessing and of peace. As we all say, Amen.
Hi, I'd like to invite everyone to join me in singing our final song, Let There Be Peace on Earth, the words of which can be found at the back of our beautiful program book. The words might be a little different than the version that you are used to, but I promise that the sentiment remains exactly the same. I hope that we will all leave here with a smile on our faces, a song in our hearts, and maybe some inspiration to keep striving to further the important work started by Sister Rose Thering, Father David Bossman, and Seton Hall University. And now, without further ado, let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Let there be peace on earth, the peace that was meant to be, with God as our Father. We are family. Let us walk with each other in perfect harmony. Let peace begin with me. Let this be the moment now. With every step I take, let this be my solemn vow, to take each moment and live each moment in peace eternally. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me.
And so as we reach the end of this beautiful evening, it is time to share our thank yous. Our thank yous to all of you for your presence here this evening. To David and Deborah, there are not words to thank you for all you've meant to all of us and all you have done for the Sister Rose Thering Fund. A couple of special thank yous. This evening really would not have occurred without the hard work of Claire Giangreco and Susan Feinstein, and I thank them both from the bottom of my heart very much. Claire's in the back, finally sitting down, so there she is. Stand up, Claire. Thank you. We thank Jason for the beautiful music, for all those who accompanied him and joined him, and we're very grateful for the presence of our special guests, the Archbishop and Elisha Wiesel, and for our teacher scholars, and for everyone from the Seton Hall community. Thank you, Perry, for the beautiful blessing for all, and we wish you all a very safe home tonight. So thank you.
So after tonight's affair, tell me, just walk me through all the emotions that you felt, even with the surprise that you saw on screen. So just walk me through what tonight meant to you.
Yes, well, what it is it's, I think, the fulfillment of 34 years of work at Seton Hall. And it's so amazing to see it all come to focus in one night, in one set of people who are so articulate and so full of their of love. And so I think that it's all came to focus in one event.
So tonight with the affair, what did it feel like for you? And did you ever have a moment where you thought about when you first came through the front door and how much has been accomplished? And even hearing the speeches tonight and the work that's ahead, how did all of that resonate for you?
Well, one of the most telling questions that I was asked when I was interviewing to come here is, how well do you deal with ambiguities? And I think that life is full of ambiguities. There's no clear answer to anything. And I think that Jewish Christian Studies is a lot about that, and including Muslims and Hindus and Buddhists. There's no clear answer about the religious questions that we have or the justice questions that we have, but there's just people working together harmoniously, looking for a solution. And the harmony sometimes is stretched, but I think my 34 years focus on that. How do you deal with ambiguities?
Well, definitely your teachings will continue, as they're going to have a scholarship in your name, which is extraordinary. And what did it feel like to have one of your teachers in the video tonight, going all the way back to when you were training, I believe, in Israel, correct?
That's right, yes. Well, the amazing thing is that we feel like the same person we were as children, and we are in a certain sense. But then looking back on what we were at any given time, and say, well, I've come beyond that. And I think there's a fruition of summing that all up that is very beautiful and very powerful.
What would you like to see happen in the next, let's say, 5 years, even 10 years, with the foundation, and even your students that were here and going on to teaching? What would you like to see happen?
Well, my last class, I said, I ended the class by saying, that's all I have to say, and it's for you to do the talking from now on. And they're doing the talking. And that's what I want to see, for them to continue talking and sharing their own way of living out the discussions we've had in class in their own classrooms.
Well, as Marcia had said, good luck to the next one.
Thank you so much.